In this video, we strive to remain spoiler-free, discussing only story and plot elements from the books relevant to what has occurred already on the show. When necessary, a spoiler warning with a countdown will be given.
I'm Max.
I'm TheGeekieHippie. Welcome back to WoT the Adaptation. We're the YouTube show that reviews adaptations from one form to another form. This week we continue with The Expanse. However, first, we don't have Rebecca tonight. She's off at WotCon, but we do have a special guest. We have Sean the Gleeman. Tell us about yourself, Sean.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the Wheel of Time. I've been reading the series for about 10 years now, and in that time I've read it 7 times, and I'm currently working on listening through all the books for the first time.
Nice.
The Expanse is a series I read. Well, I haven't read the entire series. I read the first book probably around the same time, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I recently reread the first 3 books this year. It was just a series I always forgot about to go back into, so I'm glad to be able to do that tonight. But I'm not very well into the Wheel of Time community. I do a little bit on Twitter. Or most of what I do on Twitter is just write short stories and stuff. I have some occasional poems.
Cool.
But I'm excited to be here tonight.
The one theme we've had with all of our guests is I think everybody was a Wheel of Time fan. That's how I've met all of our guests and the whole the whole crew. And I know Max and Rebecca. I've only read Leviathan Wakes in like 1/3 of Caliban's War, until I realized that all of the Abracerala stuff is not what's it in season 1. So I'm like, oh, okay, it is all totally made up. Because I thought I might have to read that just to know what changes her story went through. But so, Max, what do you tell us about tonight's episode?
Oh, obviously this is episode 6, Rock Bottom. It was directed by Robert Lieberman and written by Jason Ning, is what I have.
Yep.
Originally aired January 12th, 2016 on Sci-Fi.
That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know when I was sitting watching this episode the first time.
And the episode synopsis is pretty simple. It's Holden's team makes an uneasy alliance with Fred Johnson while Miller fights for his life.
That sounds about right. I mean, there's 2 other storylines that take place in this episode, but they're not that consequential. Although I do have things to say about them.
Like always. So going right from there is, Glenn, what were some plot hole or issues they may face due to the changes you liked?
So what changes did I like and what problems?
Yep.
Well, see, that's the thing that I'm discovering about this show. No matter what changes they make, how big they are, and how many of them there are, they always seem to write around and close any plot holes that they might form. So I really don't have anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really did like the changes to the Shenlong storyline. That was the rock hopper with Mateo and Diago. Diago.
That's probably
those are
correct name.
Yeah, those characters aren't who was involved with the Shenlong in the book. That was a totally different. It was a group of Chinese ethnic people. It was like 5 different families that owned it together, and that got shot down. That being shot down is what led to that guy getting the spikes driven through his chest that they took and gave to Havelock. But the storyline that they changed here, it made everything a little bit less complicated and not need any exposition at all. I mean, because explaining why this rock copter would have been running without their transponder on would have had to take some exposition, which they skirted around between this story. And that doesn't really cause any changes. As a matter of fact, it kind of speeds the episode up. Anybody got? Do you have any comments on that, Max, Sean?
I honestly don't remember much about the Rock Hopper story line, but what you're saying and does make a lot of sense. It would have taken more time to explain why they were trying to hide the transponder when they could just say, "Oh, hey, we didn't have the money to renew it."
Right.
It's just it's a small change, but effective, saves screen time.
And there is one benefit to this storyline change and introducing Diago through there is because Diago eventually ends up back on Ceres, spoiler for seasons 2 and 3, and working with the OPA and becomes, he's heavily involved in all that for a while. And so this introduces him early on. And we've seen him once, back at the beginning of the season when he was stealing water. And now we see him this way. So it's reintroducing a character we're going to use later.
So I can't remember. Is he the same kid that goes with Miller later in season 2, or is it a different kid?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's the same one. It's he's the same one that in the books Miller stays with on Tycho, because I think he ends up going to Tycho, and I think it's
With like
Diago.
the helmet, with a helmet scene.
Yeah, and that freaked me out when Mateo opened his helmet, the visor on his helmet. I couldn't figure out the first few times I watched. I'm like, what is that? It's a shorting wire that he pulled out of his helmet. I'm like, don't you need that? And then closes his mask. I'm just like, that was fun.
Yeah, I never got the connection that kid was the same one from later in the TV show.
I only picked up on that reading the wiki on it this afternoon.
I just saw him as this kid that's stranded in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
And I totally forgot about the Rockhopper story until he even mentioned it. And
because it's a C story, a C or D story. Actually, D story is Avasarala.
Yeah.
But
it's just like a random little scene that happens. I totally forgot about till you mentioned. It's like, yeah, that did happen.
There's like 4 different scenes with them. I've got a couple others, but I'll let you guys throw some out there.
Does Sean have any changes you liked?
One of the changes I actually liked, just because of how much I like the actress, I'm not even going to try and pronounce her name because I know I'll get it wrong, but was more Chrissy, because you got none of her in book 1. She doesn't show up until books 2 and 3, where she has some major plot lines. But setting her up, this is something that they've done throughout the entire first season, but especially in this episode, setting her up as somebody who's willing to take all these big risks as to get what she needs while still trying to fly under the radar. It's going to help out in later seasons. I haven't watched season 2 or 3 yet, so I don't know if they actually do pay it off, but getting a lot more of her instead of just being thrown, oh, hey, here's a new character who's kind of sleazy.
She's sleazy, but she's classy.
Yes.
Chrisjen Abasarala is the character. The actress is Shora Agdashlu.
Shora Agdashlu, okay.
Shlu.
But yes, I think they've actually avoided a couple plot holes by having her involved now, because they've made her a storyline that this is how she's able to know everything that's going on that she does, as in later books, is they're showing us how she's obtaining this information.
Tracks.
Yeah.
I haven't read that far, but I guess that would make sense.
Yeah.
She's probably, she's one of my 2 favorite characters on the show. My favorite character switches around all the time, but she's always there as one of my 2 favorite characters. Currently, right where we're at right now, it's Miller.
Miller's great.
Miller's awesome. Miller's so sad of a case, but
it's hard for me to look at that actor and not see the Punisher, but he does a pretty good job of being Miller.
See, I've only seen the trailer of that Punisher. I haven't seen him actually do it.
See, my problem is I had HBO or Showtimes, and he was on the show Hung.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't not see him in that as this deadbeat father.
So that's probably the first thing I saw him as. And I really don't remember. I mean, I know it was him, but I really don't remember him as the actor from the show. So
the other part is it doesn't help that the actor reminds me a lot of Eureka.
Oh yeah,
I get those two mixed up quite a bit.
Helen Ferguson.
Mhm.
Put them in the same room, like I'm not sure which one's which. I'm sorry.
They could play brothers.
They
I
easily
mean-
could play brothers.
Yeah, that a reboot with Eureka with Thomas Jane. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
Or it could
Next-
be one of those spin-off episodes where he's playing him in a TV show about Eureka.
Oh, right.
That'd be more like a warehouse episode.
See, Supernatural did that kind of stuff all the time, but it was just them playing themselves.
I mean, we already have Clerks 3 doing that now.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it soon, I hope.
Well, it's not out. They had to show the trailer.
Oh, I haven't seen. That's the trailer that I was going to show my friend today, and I forgot all about.
Yep.
I'll remember next time. Next, did you have any changes that you like?
I did. The one that came to mind to me was basically the Amos scene in the bar.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
I did really like that. As far as I remember, right, he pretty much just got drunk on the books. Like he didn't really have much going on. He got drunk and that was
He
about it.
drank and screwed.
And here he kind of show that, how to put it,
At least,
Amos comes off as the character with a very low EQ.
yeah,
When this time it kind of looks like it's a lot higher than you'd expect.
yeah.
And it's just that his element is completely different. And
Yeah. At first in
like
the
I said-
books, all he's doing is drinking and sexing. But later he's playing cards, and Alex is off playing darts.
yep.
So have you either of you read The Churn yet?
Which one?
The Churn, the
Mhm.
novella? No.
Nah.
You
But-
get a lot of Amos background in that.
They basically gives Amos something to do in the show.
Yeah.
Aside from being imposing and threatening and potentially homicidal.
At the drop of a hat.
He's very stoic in the books. He doesn't do a lot. He just kind of stands there and just looks big.
Yeah.
It's an Earther. It's his job.
They get involved. All
And
day.
in D&D, he's clearly the barbarian. I mean, I bring it up all the time, but that's his role.
But he's the one from the big city.
And
Big city barbarians?
why not?
Okay. Okay, I guess.
It's the rage mechanic. It's the, low charisma.
Okay.
Intelligence is not necessarily mandatory.
For a
No.
barbarian who needs intelligence.
But, he could be the rocket scientist barbarian. Who would know?
Yeah, and that's the thing because he can't be stupid. He was able to learn the engineering and mechanics that he learned.
So space barbarian, he has enough intelligence to be out in space, but he's still a rage machine.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the changes I liked. Showing him as being, hints at his origins, and it shows him on the verge, I would say, of being a concerned individual. Because he wasn't quite concerned. He wanted to know how that place treats their people, so he could make his judgments about how he's going to have interactions with that place. Not so much for those people's sake. That's why, but still, he's on the verge there of being actually concerned about, the treatment that the working boys and girls at that bar have.
I mean, clearly he can recognize them. He can spot them. He can spot other lowlifes with knives on them.
Well, that's how you
And-
survive with those low life.
And if this is like if this is like the lowest level of your underworld, that means your bar is higher than his other bar where it can be much lower.
But that seemed like a high class bar. Higher class bar.
Yeah. But if that's the low underbelly of the city, or station,
Hmm.
like that's as low life as it goes, clearly things are a lot better there than you'd expect.
I mean, he is funded by Mormons, so
Amongst others, but yeah. And all that stuff at the club also, I liked it for the Alex side of things too. That we got to see a hint at his family life. We've seen that picture a couple of times, but know nothing else about it. And I like that we get a little bit of hint at that. I don't remember any of that coming out anywhere any of that character building coming out in the books. I mean, it was done in other ways in the books, but this particular article of, character development is fresh to the show.
Yeah, can't disagree.
I think it worked. I kind of like that bar scene, and it showed depth to everybody.
Yeah.
Even Alex was like, I can't. I'm still dealing with my backstory.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I like. And we get to see more of that as time goes on.
I did like his comment about essentially like, I'm just going to shut up now.
Yes, that was exactly how you do it when you realize you screwed up saying something stupid. I'm just going to shut up now and turn away. 2 drinks, please.
Yep.
Or however many of them there are. Plus,
I think it's probably 2.
Yeah,
it was 2.
I think
it was 2. But if it's 4 people you insulted, then you're ordering 5 drinks.
Were there any other changes either of you liked?
I'm trying to think. I like that they showed I don't remember much about his introduction, but I felt like Fred Johnson showed he was very aware of what was going on and wasn't taking anybody's crap very fast. He's like, I see you. Oh, I'm not having it with you.
Right.
This is the way it's going to be, which I think it took him. I think he kind of lured them in with the false. So yeah, everything's going to be fine in the book. Whereas he just showed I'm in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Which,
I also like the interrogation of Miller. It doesn't really have any parallel in the book that I can remember, but it was kind of fun seeing Miller get beat up, and just the way Dawes questioned him, and then Dawes realizing, oh my gosh, I should have known. You're in love with Julie Mao. And then he tries rambling away as soon as he admits to that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that interrogation definitely was in the book. A lot of Miller's storyline isn't in the book. He just kind of does a lot of wandering around in the show, but it makes sense for the show.
He has to tread water. That's what we figured the last couple of weeks is they've kind of got him in a holding pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Or as I made the joke last week, and when I edited a video a week or so ago, Holden pattern.
Mm-hmm. That was bad, and you should feel bad.
Yes, I did.
I don't believe you actually felt bad about it.
No, but Chrisjen actually said that it was a terrible pun. Good. I think it was Alex that I had to say the pun because when I edit, I pop up thought clouds above their heads, and so that they're making comments throughout the video, usually to my detriment.
We're gonna hold you to that.
Oh, it is in either last week's, which will come out Tuesday, or the one that came out this past Tuesday. But it was in there. I had Alex say Holden pattern, and Avasarala said, "Oh, that was a terrible pun, young man."
So, moving on, are there any changes you dislike?
Yeah,
Sean.
Yes, actually, and this is just my personal taste, because I haven't watched season 2 yet, but everything Phoebe related that Miller was talking about when he got fired, none of that was figured out until the second book.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, hey, I have no idea how they're going to do this, because a lot of the second book was the mystery of where did this thing come from. What is this thing? Where did it come from? And they go to Phoebe and find out. But that's just a personal thing. I think if I rewatch the season, it'll make more sense and finish the show.
Always does.
But I think it can also speed up the pacing by eliminating that mystery of where did this thing came from. I think you can cut out a good third of Caliban's war, and just show it on screen now. That hey, everybody's the money is there. You can follow the money, which is what Miller did.
Yeah. No. I say, wasn't Phoebe the station that just went like dark or something?
Yeah, that was the one that went dark on the show. The Martian Marines were blaming Holden's crew for it.
And did they mention it in the first book or not?
Now,
It is mentioned. It is mentioned, but not much beyond it being mentioned. I think it's mentioned as going dark.
Yeah.
I think
So-
maybe at the very end.
Or
So I
that-
kind
that
of
it was
remember,
quick.
I can remember, like in our first 2 episodes of this, we had talked about Phoebe Station like just disappearing or something, and
Yeah,
I couldn't remember anything about Phoebe because like one mention in the first book, and like I
yeah.
forgot all about it.
It's mentioned at one point as a place that belters can't even orbit,
Yeah.
let alone dock. And then
Yeah.
another mention, I think, and it's either that mention or a possible third mention, where it's just you get some news that Phoebe's gone. You know, it's gone dark, or we haven't heard from Phoebe.
And wasn't there something like what's her face's ship was coming from Phoebe, or
Mhm.
Well,
That was mentioned. That was mentioned in the show.
it was in the show, but not the book.
what it appears on the show is that the Scopuli intercepted a ship that was coming from Phoebe, and they took whatever from that ship on board them, and then the stealth ships came along and took the Scopuli at some point after that.
Yeah.
Exactly when and where, who knows?
So basically, book 2, they clearly spell it out for all those that missed all those tiny little things.
Probably.
Like
Yeah.
I would have totally missed Phoebe until you guys mentioned that.
You know, it's kind of
Phoebe
like
went dark.
It starts off on Phoebe,
Yeah.
I think.
So back on track. What was other changes we disliked?
I really didn't like. I don't like the spy story that's introduced in this episode. That's begun in this episode. That whole story arc, I really don't like, and I think a large part of it is I don't like that actor who's playing him for some reason. He just, I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything else. I haven't looked him up, but that dude just really irked me. Especially, not even so much this episode, but watching the rest of this season when we see more of him. I'm just like, Amos, would you throttle him, please?
Again, back to the barbarian.
Yeah. And there was also something Holden did that seemed weird to me. Last week, Holden was all about, yeah, I'll testify. We'll testify for you. Come on, let's go. I'll testify. And he's talking to the Martian. This week, Fred says testify, and Holden's like, testify?
Mhm.
Like, didn't you say you were going to testify? Yeah, they're all dead, but you already did say you'd testify, so why are you being a dick to Fred for even suggesting the idea of testifying?
I think it was the implication of what Fred wanted him to testify to.
Being a dick to Fred was entirely the plot of the first 3 books.
I still think we're going overboard with extra dramatic tension. Like that whole scene when at the dock, when Amos and Holden came out of the ship and met Fred, it was just way more antagonistic than the book. And it just, I think they're overplaying that. And I don't think they need that extra drama.
Again, you haven't read book 2, so
Part
it's hard.
of it.
Yeah, but it
I
explains.
have seen all 6 seasons though.
Okay, well then yes. So I think it sets up better the relationship fallout between the two by starting off on such an antagonistic note. Like, hey, the first thing you do is lie to me and try and intimidate me. We're never going to really trust each other. It makes more sense than just I don't like the way you run things, like it is in the books. Again, you've seen all the seasons, and I've read more books, so
Right.
it could play out differently.
So like I watched that scene. That was actually gonna be mine. It's like I wasn't a big fan of that scene. Mainly from the book standpoint, like I felt like Johnson was kind of doing more of the give sugar versus vinegar approach with Holden. And in the book they had a whole segment about he got a bunch of credits from Fred Johnson to have fun in the station for months before they finally get sent off to do something else. And we don't really kind of get that in this episode. But also, like for changes, that speeds this whole thing up. We don't have them sitting on a station on their butts for 2 months or however long it was.
I think it's like a week or two in the book, actually.
But they're not getting a bunch of these free credits from Johnson as this, really nice guy that's just kind of out for them.
Right.
That's fair.
And so they just skipped that whole segment and went right to where he, as you would put it, becomes in the books that character.
The sugar daddy.
But one thing I would say about the dramatic tension, the whole Holden and the airlock didn't really do anything for me. I just thought that was kind of a waste. Of a scene, I'm like, oh yay, there's actually no tension here because I know he survives.
Oh, when they tossed Miller in the, you mean Miller?
Yeah, Miller, not Holden.
That's all right.
I don't know why I said Holden. You can
It
edit
happens.
that.
I do it too. So,
But yes, whenever they throw Miller in the airlock, I'm like, they're trying to be tension here, but I know he survived, so it doesn't really do it for me. Now, for somebody who had never seen the show, maybe there'd be some tension, but I still feel like you can tell he's too big of a character that they're going to yeet him out of an airlock.
yeah, they wouldn't have spent this much time and energy on introducing you to this character if they were just going to pop him out, space him or asphyxiate him in the middle of the first season.
So random little tidbit I was noticing on the scene where they're on that platform talking to Fred. If you notice that the Rocinante's hatch for docking isn't compatible, so they have to have that bridge to go between them.
Yeah.
So I found it interesting that apparently in the show, at least, Mars has a different docking apparatus than Belters do.
Probably every corporation that manufactures a ship has a different docking apparatus,
which is probably accurate, but also it's a really stupid idea.
Yeah, there are certain things that should be, standardized across the board.
But in reality, that's the thing going on in the International Space Station. They have those Russian ports that only that one can.
Yeah, well, they've had problems with creating stuff that doesn't fit everything else. So like you said,
I believe the Russian module is the only one that does the maneuvering right now.
Maybe.
That I don't know.
But here's the thing: even in space, it's still corporate driven. So they're going to want you to spend all the extra money to make sure or that you can accommodate their design, so that you don't have to have a universal standard.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like USBs. Apple has their own custom one. Everybody else has whatever else. And in space, they should just use USB-C. They shouldn't have 30 different types of. It just leads to bad situations. And then you got to do these custom whatever fitting things to go around, or just a haphazard way of docking.
And see, that's one of the things I love about this show is just the technology you see layered in with props or just simple blocking. Like when they were brought on board the Donager, the guys going through looking at a readout and touching two fingers to their neck and getting like a readout on who they were, and like that's kind of scary in one way, especially for those who worry about privacy and security. But it's just, and now you're seeing the bionic eyes, but I'm assuming there's some kind of implant in their neck, like a driver's license chip or an ID chip in their neck, and that's what they were picking up. But we had that guy with all those that dead body in the morgue that had all those implants. Now we're seeing this guy with the eye implants there at the very end of the episode. There's just laying in some really neat, interesting technology just all over the place. It's part of what I love about sci-fi. Is I don't watch science fiction so much for the space combat and robots and laser swords and blasters and all that kind of action stuff. I also watch it for the ideas and the technology.
What do we do with all this technology?
Yeah.
That does bring up a question of where are the automation and robots?
Yeah.
In other sci-fi, if it's not there, there's a reason for it.
They have the belters.
They have what?
They have the belter.
The Belters are disposable. They're barely
Yeah.
even seen as people.
You would still need robotics, like Earth orbit, lunar orbit, Martian orbit. It's easier to automated building, construction that way than having people there all the time. But I do know that there's some AI because last week Naomi was walking up to the engineering and the panel lit up and was telling her engineering stuff. And she said, I'm an engineer to the computer. And then we were seeing the computer's POV for a couple of moments. And, and I was just like, okay, so they're telling me that sure sounds like there's an AI that recognized her as the engineer. And again, how did it recognize her? Presumably off of some sort of implant, like whatever. Why else would he have to touch their neck? So it's like some crazy shit just being layered all over the place. And nothing unbelievable.
Except those doors you don't like.
Except for the airlock doors.
Oh, what? What, the airlock doors being on them?
Airlock doors the inner airlock door should always be a hinged door that opens inwards. That way the air pressure inside the ship or vessel will close that door if
That's
the
fair.
outer door is breached. If the outer door is breached, the air is going to try to get out and it's going to slam that door shut. So you don't do airlock doors that meet like this. It's always like this. I've had issue with that since the first episode.
Our next one is, what scene or sequence did you most enjoy or remember?
Mac or Sean?
Well, it's not so much remember because I rewatched the episode this afternoon to give me a refresher. What I think I enjoyed the most was, again, all of Chrisjen's and scenes. She's just so calm but intimidating. She's like, I'm going to get what I want. I'm not even going to try and play the whole. I have no time to play games right now. And she just, my eyes were on her every time she was on the screen, which granted wasn't a lot in this episode, but still. Oh, I think she carried the episode in her scenes.
Are you in favor of her for Cad Swain?
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any other choice, except maybe Maggie Smith. But
Ooh, Maggie Smith would be good.
Yeah, but I mean, the two of them, I'd like to see the two of them face off. Now, that would be fun.
Maggie Smith would make a good Varen.
I was actually just thinking about Varen as Kathy Bates.
Maybe Maggie Smith for one of the IO Wise ones.
Ooh, Cerelia.
So yeah, I was just thinking Cerelia. And put her and Cad Swain in a room together with Shova Agdashlu as Cad Swain. I think my heart would stop.
No, what we need is Amin Stanton as Varen, Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter.
That's who I wanted for her, but she's going to be on the Netflix The Crown for the next couple seasons. But she's not going to be available as Dolores Umbridge would be the perfect Varen. I've been saying that for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Since well before COVID.
And who else?
So, I'd say, so back to the show.
Oh, hi, man. I forgot all about you there.
Scenes we liked. Was there one you liked, Glenn? Or?
Yeah.
Or enjoyed? Yeah.
I enjoy it, and I kind of it stuck in my craw, maybe not, that's not the way to put it, stuck in my head for the last 6 years. Was the scenes with Mateo and Diogo out on the Shenlong, especially when he's crawling through the tunnel of that rock pile that's just floating there in space, and he's floating around inside of a tunnel, inside of a pile of rocks, and just out in space. I'm just like, I'd have so much fun clambering around on, I'd have fun being a rock hopper, because but
you get hazard pay for that.
Yeah, just don't leave me alone, like, because I'm going to give a spoiler for your next question in a few minutes here. These scenes are also my least favorite scenes of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I love them, but I hate them. I love the idea of being out on this out in space like that, but I'm terrified of the idea of being left to float and slowly run out of oxygen while you hope somebody spots you and hears you and comes and picks you up. And I also hate the way the MCRN goons behave. They're being assholes, and that pisses me off. But so yeah, I love and I hate everything about the Mateo Diogo scenes, and I take them all as one because they're all really a whole to me.
Mhm.
No, go ahead, Max.
No, I was just going, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really care for those. I know the whole him throwing the rock at the ship, while a cool visual, didn't really do a whole lot for me.
Yeah,
See,
I get it.
I looked at it as foreshadowing. Are we
Fair.
gonna kill you with a rock?
Well, yes.
Oh, not just within the episode, in later seasons. Which I don't know if, or
I
the
don't know if
books that
he's
you've
gotten
read.
that far.
In the books, yeah. I don't know if
Well, yeah, what they did to Venus.
Okay, no.
there's some other things that happen apparently in later books, I guess.
Yep.
In later shown in later seasons that have involved Big Rock.
Big rocks are always fun.
Yes, especially when you're throwing them really, really fast.
Which there's something they actually mentioned in the books is that the rocks were, all it take is just throwing a big rock at someone. It's all it take to take out a station.
Or maybe not. Well, yeah, a ship if you could throw it fast enough.
Well, not literally like in a ship and throwing a rock, but the rock being
Yeah,
the
I know what
bodies
you
out in
meant.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you meant. So yeah, those are mine. What were some scenes you liked?
Aside from that one with Amos in the bar, the only other scene that kind of stands out is basically at the end of the episode where he's just giving coffee to everybody.
That moment, that look between him and Amos, I was like, what's gonna happen here? And
It's
then
just the party. It's just the party coming back together and like, let's get this shit done.
and Amos. Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Amos gave him the shortest, just the tiniest little nod, almost imperceptible nod. You were starting to say something, Sean?
I just thought of another scene. The whole Miller getting fired. He's like, oh, hey, I figured out everything. And his superior's like, wow, you did your job too well. Get out of my sight. You know too much.
Yeah.
Him's like, really? Hey, how much, the line I love was, how much does undying loyalty go for these days?
And it's like he never noticed that some of these security guards that work for Star Helix, the uniforms, had OPA tattoos.
Yep.
It's like, seriously, you never noticed that guy had an OPA tattoo before today?
He wasn't really invested in his job all that much.
So, question, or do we actually know if it's security guards when he met before? Or are these new hires?
There can't be too many. I didn't get the impression that they did any new hires, but I don't know.
I kind of got that impression that there are new hires.
Okay, that's cool.
Like I have no evidence for it, but that's what I got the impression. It was like they were kind of new, especially Dawson doing his thing.
What, getting speared? No, that was Havelock.
Or sorry, Dawes, not Dawson. Sorry. With Anderson Dawes doing his whole thing with Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That kind of makes me wonder about if those were like new hires, and that's why they have the tattoos.
Oh, the brother and sister.
Well, the one in the office that he got fired with.
Oh, right.
Like if those security are new hires,
it could be.
Because they're slowly phasing out, like basically phasing out the Earther that was on the ship or the station.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that could be a way of them being willfully negligent of allowing that situation to happen. to get rid of the Earther because they want more OPA on their police force.
Was Miller an Earther? I thought he was a Belter. Okay.
Miller's a Belter.
No,
Yeah.
the guy that got speared.
Oh, yeah.
On
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
show, Havelock, he's an Earther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I feel like his circumstance events were arranged to happen that way potentially.
I mean, it was awfully convenient for them to be able to spear the Lone Star Helix.
And no other Star Helix were around him at the time.
Yeah.
Anywhere in sight.
Well,
I think
all the rest of Star Helix were Belters and were probably natives to Ceres and knew better than to be where he was at.
I think the Kant was just an excuse. I think they didn't want to spear him for a while.
That's possible. Do we know if he was the only Earther working for Star Helix there?
No.
I don't think so. I didn't think so. No idea.
So what scenes we hated? I know you touched on one, Glenn.
Yeah, I really didn't like the way the Mickeys behaved. I'm sorry, Martians behaved. I don't know if that's how nasty of a slur that's considered. I know if you were to say that to an Irishman, you're probably going to get in trouble. But yeah, other than the stuff with the MCRN and the Zhenglong, I didn't really have anything I hated.
I know I touched on it earlier, but I just did not care about the twins, and them. They just, I don't know what their point was. Create false tension and just exist to get killed. That was their only purpose. They were there to get shot.
There to be thugs and then get killed.
Yeah. Shot by Athena. I don't remember the character's name. I just know the actors from Manifest.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen her in anything else.
Is it Captain Shadid?
Yeah. No, that's the character on the show is Olivia Muss.
Octavia Muss, yep. Athena.
Octavia
okay.
Muss. Not Olivia.
Just saw her to the. I'm looking at IMDb. One down to the left.
Yeah, Athena Karkanis, I think.
Yeah, she's a pretty major character in Manifest, but that's the only other thing I've seen her in.
Okay.
So the scene I didn't like, it's so stupid. But so you mentioned the scene with Dawes is beating on Miller. Watching that scene, I was honestly distracted by Dawes' nipples, just staring out of a shirt.
Old man nipples.
I mean, he's talking, and I'm like, all I see are your man nipples right there pointing at me.
And I don't think Dawes actually hits Miller once.
Can't remember. I remember Miller being on the ground, but yeah, you're probably right.
I think
but
it was all the twins.
This is probably the first time we've really seen him standing and not in just overcoat thing. And those two things were just pointing at me, and it was just distracting.
All right.
Again, speaking of, since we've been doing this, of things I can't see Dawes as anybody except what's his face from Fringe?
The father figure?
Yeah.
John Noble?
Mm-hmm. The other scientist.
Okay. See, I love the guy we've got, Jared Harris.
Oh, he's fantastic, Eric.
I love him as Anderson Dawes. I don't care for Anderson Dawes in the book, in just the first book, but this Anderson Dawes, I like.
Yeah, he's an interesting Anderson Dawes. I think it's because we like the actor so much that we can tolerate the character.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking on that is it's almost like they flipped the script on Dawes and Fred Johnson. Because Dawes is going all honey and nice.
Yeah, and Fred's being.
And it was the opposite in the book.
Yeah.
Very hard ass military.
Yeah.
See, and that's kind of what they've done with a lot of changes is, they'll make this A when this was A, and this will become B when this was B. And so it's. Does that make sense the way I'm putting it that way?
Mhm.
Like they'll take this element and apply it to something else in a different way, but they're still like, hey, look, it's still here.
Yep.
And I don't know if I like that or not.
I think it worked sometimes, and other times it didn't.
Yeah.
So are there any other, scenes we like the most or dislike the most?
I think the hardest I laughed was during Holden's toast. When he's like, to the men who got us off the Donager, and she's like, do I have to? He's like, yes, they saved our lives. They didn't have to. Know that.
I like they couldn't stop talking shit about Shed even when they were toasting him.
Well,
what I saw of Shed, that just seems like that's Shed's personality. He kind of like attracts that.
Well, that's what happens when you lose your head.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of mentioned, what Shed did for drugs. Holden did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
There you go, Shed.
made some mention about the medication he gave out.
Yeah. And like I said, what was Shed's last act? His last act in this world was giving away a joint. How wonderful is that? That warms my heart.
All right. So our next topic, which should go pretty fast, is best or worst actor in this episode. If John wants to go first.
I had Fred Johnson written down, but after discussing it with you guys all night, I think I am going to change it to Miller, just because he didn't do a lot, but what he did was fun to watch. It was fun to watch him get beat up.
He's very convincing at getting his ass whooped.
Again, watch The Punisher. He gets his ass kicked there. But
I usually give 2 or 3 names myself.
Worst actors. Again, gotta hand it to the twins. I don't even know their names. I just know them as the twins, and the only memorable thing about them is your parents must be so proud.
They blended into the background too much for me. So up until about the moment they got shot, and then they were like, "Oh, hey, cool." That was. I always like seeing how well they can do a special effect like that on TV.
That's the best thing they did in the show was get shot.
I mean, It's a whole career path if you do CSI.
You hit it on the head right there.
Well, fair.
Or you could call in Dexter for the blood spatter specialist. The 3 I was going to Chad L. Coleman as Fred Johnson, of course. Max will understand this. Wes Chatham as Amos. And he who shall not be named as Alex Kamal.
For me, obviously, Amos wins this one for me.
You don't say.
Yeah.
He always votes for Amos.
And nipples aside, Jared Harris has to get some props for his complete character 180 this episode.
Honorable mention, I think, will go to the captain, and who I'm just going to call Discount Marina Barkerin. And because her whole, I have to fire you now. She's like, is there anything else? Is there anything else you're going to make me do, or can I just hide this way and get you out of my hair? That whole scene, and it was an honorable mention for me. She's like, oh, okay.
She's cold as ice.
So our last topic is themes. Pretty much, what themes do you think handled it from the book to the show? Maybe the show didn't have that the book had, or the show had that the book didn't have.
We start with you, Max.
I was going to do that. For me, obviously, the resource scarcity is ever present within the Expanse. And we saw that again with Diego.
Diogo.
Yeah. That one.
Two O's, no E's.
Yeah, he got shoved out in an airlock. Miller almost got shoved out in an airlock and was being suffocated. We saw the excess of resources on the Tycho Station compared to some other places.
Yeah.
They hinted at the I like that nice little joke of he's overcharging them for their toilet seats.
Mm-hmm. And like Mattio's ship, he didn't have the resources to pay for his license to operate. And it's ever-present thing. With trying to name just escape me for a second. Fred. Honestly, we kind of had I think I mentioned it like earlier in the season, but like that White Knight type theme of the outsider taking on the plight of someone else and white knighting it as like it's his issue to solve. I think a good example of that is like with Dances with Wolves is when it comes up frequently with the white guy coming in and trying to save them.
That one hits in the concept of white savior.
That's what I was going for. Yeah.
Okay.
But mind you, Fred's not white. But
He's
he is an earther. So it's earther savior.
Well, it's like a line in one of the chapters that I was listening to this weekend that I've heard like 3 times now this weekend is Earthman's plight, Amos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's like, it goes over his head, of course, but I'm like, that's clever. I thought that was clever. It's
And that kind of is a theme going on here. We have Fred doing that whole thing.
Privilege
Holden.
Has shifted in this solar system.
That's true. You mentioned rarity. I'd say the theme of desperation was pretty there on everybody. Miller's desperate to find out what's going on. Chrisjen is desperate to get information on everything, try to stop a war. Just everybody's desperate at this point, and they're just reaching out for everything. And at this point, nobody's more desperate than Diogo, who just wants to not be stranded in the middle of space.
And it's fitting you use that word because when people hit rock bottom, they're desperate. And that's the title of this episode is Rock Bottom.
And this, in Diogo's case, literally.
Diogo and Mateo, literally. And Miller, he went to the bottom of the rock, as far outside of the rock you could get, outside of Ceres. On the outer layer of Ceres, sitting there with just that between him and space. He was at the rock's bottom. At the same time, he was hitting rock bottom.
Guess you go that analogy, then Holden and the crew were definitely at the bottom of a bar.
I mean, they were on the fleet from a Russian frigate, not a Martian frigate, going into a possibly hostile situation, which they didn't help by making it hostile.
Yeah, bottom of the bottle is kind of rock bottom.
I also picked up on 2 others. Revenge. Mateo was so pissed he gave his life trying to get revenge on a Martian ship by throwing rocks at it. I don't know if he got them going fast enough, but
It'll definitely hurt.
I have a feel the point defense cannons were able to take care of that fistful of rocks he threw.
There was a lot of shotgun effect going on there.
I mean, he was going to die either way, so.
Yeah. The entire encounter with the MCR goons was all about the Martians wanting revenge on the Belters for the Doniger. I mean, they even mentioned the Doniger. When Avasarala is talking to Ehrenreich, he says, "Is this personal?" And she's like, "You better damn believe it's personal," because she wants vengeance against the OPA who kidnapped her son. The whole motivation for Space and Miller that those siblings had was vengeance against the man, and believe me, I've been a radical winger like the OPA when I was young. I know how they think. Yeah, that was all, in essence, vengeance against the man.
He was one of them, but he was a traitor because
right, he was a well walla. He was a well walla. That's what he got called a couple of times. And the other one I saw is regret. We see and hear regret from Alex when he's talking to Amos at the club. And we see that regret every time he pulls out that picture of his family. We're from a regret both from Miller and Olivia, or Octavia most, when they're talking about killing for the first time. We see Holden feeling regret and pain at being the cause of the scapula trap being sprung when he told Alex and Amos. And you feel the thinnest hint of it, same with Naomi, which I can't elaborate on because it nods towards future storylines in the show. So let's just say there's one aspect where it's foreshadowing.
Miller's regret at the very end of "I thought I could trust you."
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I picked up on the show, on this episode. At first, I didn't think there was much there. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, I was going to say they're picking up on they picked up on some of the themes from book 2 of this is so much bigger than we think. It's very small in the background, but it's starting in that. I think it's in one of the books. The authors, James S. A. Corey, say this is supposed to be a grand opera, and you're starting to see the elements of that when they're talking about Phoebe, and they're talking about that bioweapon. Like this is something bigger, something so big that someone would start a war to cover it. And that's one of the themes of the second book is why is this so big? It's going to encompass all of humanity.
It's what I remember of the series, and I remember how that went to some extent. And I can see how the books are going in a certain direction. That's for sure. I do have to finish Caliban's War this month, hopefully.
I got to start Cibola Burn. I got to finish the Cosmere first.
Where were you at in the Cosmere?
Bands of Mourning.
Okay.
Bands of Mourning, and I got. Yeah.
Mistborn Era 2, my favorite Cosmere. That's my favorite Anderson.
Which one is?
Mistborn Era 2.
I'd say I've been working on Oathbringer for like 3 years now, so I'm still working through it.
That's up next, is Oathbringer.
And see, I found that one to be a lot easier than Way of Kings. Way of Kings was... And the crazy part about Way of Kings is I've actually read it 3 times. But it's just so hard for me to get through.
I liked Elantris a lot more than most people, it seemed like.
It wasn't bad.
Hate it. I don't love it.
I think it's because I didn't read it first. I think it's because what I read first was Mistborn.
So my first was Elantris of his.
I did Mistborn first.
Good start.
I didn't read any of his other stuff other than Elantris until after his second book for the Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even start Stormlight until after A Memory of Light. So, we all set then? I think we got.
I could mention one scene I did also like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Was the part where Miller was talking to trying to remember what her name was again. We just mentioned Octavia about you mentioned the regret part, and he's saying like what you should do with those memories, and she's just like, that's a dumb idea.
Not any particular scene, but just I guess this would go into the overall themes of just how dirty the belt is, like how underused it is, how far away from it is from civilization compared to Earth, and what we've seen of the Martian ships. It's just broken down, People are executed
Oh.
for failing to maintain.
Well,
I
see,
think-
not even everything on Ceres is dirty.
Yeah.
It's just it's how much resources Ceres as a government wants to put into cleaning up all these other areas, and
Yeah.
that's really the problem.
I think we forgot to mention the whole classism thing too in this
Oh,
episode. 'Cause that was
absolutely.
Yeah,
obviously present. Completely bypassed that by accident.
classism and racism.
Mhm.
Kind
Yeah,
of
very
mixed
evident
in.
on the rock ship with the
Yeah.
Martians. Like obvious. Don't even care that you can't get through and live.
Everything I've been reading lately has that as a subtext, as something going on, because I'm reading Michael J. Sullivan's the Rhyria Revelations, and that's been a major storyline or a major theme going on in there is hatred against elves, at least. I'm just like, didn't we just deal with this with The Witcher? With me reading The Witcher, now I'm reading this. I'm like, interesting. Well, that is another episode all wrapped up. We have completed episode 106 for The Expanse on Sci-Fi Channel originally. Now you can find it on Amazon Prime Video. Thanks for joining us, Sean. Hope to have you back again.
I would absolutely do this again. This was a lot of fun.
It's
I know.
always fun. I love doing this.
It was a good discussion. I'm sure Rebecca's going to have some notes for you guys.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us. Max, do you have something?
Yeah, next episode is called Windmills.
Windmills. We're going back to Don Quixote.
Oh, I just figured they were those nipple windmill things.
Oh,
The tassels, yeah.
Anderson Dawes windmill nipples.
Definitely. Just tassels,
Again, thanks so much for having me tonight.
Thank you for coming on, man. Nice to meet you on face to face.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're welcome for getting that image implanted in your brain for the rest of the evening.
Yes, definitely.
I'm gonna have to watch some Clone Wars to get that out of my head.
Thanks at
You're
home
welcome.
for watching. Come back next week as we continue with The Expanse. And don't forget to be awesome.